Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk to you about government failure, and I should also say congratulations because this is the last topic that we have in theme 1. So when we've done government failure, we've done every topic in theme 1, which is excellent. Government failure is where the government intervention that may have occurred results in a misallocation of resources. So the government has intervened in the market, but it's resulted in the allocation of resources still being incorrect, and it isn't good for society. This means that we're going to have a net welfare loss still in existence. So the government have tried to solve a problem, but it still leads to a problem within society. We know that these are the type of government interventions that can occur. So if we have positive or negative externalities, if there's under provision of a good or service, and if there's asymmetric information, these are the interventions that the government might put in place. Subsidies, taxes, pollution permits, maybe providing information about something, a maximum price, a minimum price, regulations, and also there may be government provision of something. Unfortunately, even if the government has good intentions with their intervention, you can still have problems. And there are 4 main reasons that you can have government failure. The first is that the price signal has been distorted. And if you're a free market economist, you think that resources should be allocated using demand and supply. However, with some of these interventions, that is being completely distorted. For example, with a subsidy, this will cause the price to go down. And this isn't what the market mechanism intended. The price shouldn't be that low. It's only lower because of the subsidy. If a tax is put in place, this will cause the price to go up. And again, this is distorting the price signal. The price shouldn't be this high. It's only because of the tax that's been placed on the good or service. Also, with a pollution permit, the polluter is going to have to be paying more money in order to pollute, so it's distorted the price signal. And with a maximum and minimum price, additionally, the government has put something in place which means that the price that has to be paid isn't what the equilibrium price is in the market. The maximum price is below the equilibrium. The minimum price is above the equilibrium, and therefore it's distorting the price signal. And regulations and government provision could also affect the price of the product. So remember that the price signal is to do with the interaction of demand and supply, and this gives us our equilibrium price. But government interventions can distort this. So this is our first problem and the first reason we might have government failure. The second one is unintended consequences. This means that the government puts in place their intervention, but then this causes consequences which they hadn't meant to happen. And this could be something like smuggling, for example. If a high tax is placed on cigarettes to try and reduce the negative externalities from smoking and so that less people are smoking, the tax will put up the price. But this will mean that some people might start to smuggle cigarettes and to sell them illegally without the tax. And this is an unintended consequence. And also, if you've put a tax in place, this could lead to people trying not to pay the tax. So it could lead to tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is fine. You're allowed to do that by law. It just means that you're finding clever ways to avoid paying tax. The way to remember this, it's A-OK. The expression if something's A-OK, it's allowed. But also it may lead to tax evasion. And I remember this evasion is illegal. But in either case, whether people or firms are avoiding paying tax or whether they're evading paying tax, they're not paying the tax. This is an unintended consequence. The third type of government failure is where there are excessive administrative costs from putting the government intervention in place or from monitoring it. For example, with pollution permit schemes, when the scheme is set up, it's going to be very expensive initially to find out what the optimum level of pollution is, also to work out how many permits should be allocated. And then after that, the government have to monitor how much every firm is polluting. So this would be another administrative cost. And if these administrative costs are excessive, it might not actually be worth the while of the government intervening. And in this case, the government intervention has resulted in a misallocation of resources, and there's still a net welfare loss. The final problem that can occur when the government intervenes is that there may be information gaps. For example, where to set a minimum price. So for example, if the minimum price, that will be above the equilibrium price, if this price is to protect producers and to make sure that they're paid enough, is the minimum price high enough? Perhaps the government don't have enough information in order to set this at the right place. The same with a maximum price. Is the maximum price too low? Should it be higher? Or vice versa? And if there are regulations being put in place, for example, to try and stop something from happening which is causing negative externalities, how large are the negative externalities? Does the government have enough information to be able to measure the negative externalities? So is the regulation suitable to try and solve the problem? And what you can do yourself is you can go through each of these government interventions, and for each one you can say to yourself, will this distort the price signal? Will there be any unintended consequences? Might there be excessive administrative costs? And might there be information gaps so that the government intervention isn't as effective as it could be? And these are the kind of things that you might explain in detail if you're talking about why government intervention fails and actually it isn't as effective as you hoped it would have been.